So with today, right, Memorial Day, my wife and kids, they went over. They're going to visit my their in-laws, and they live near the military base here in Kansas City, Fort Leavenworth. And then there's a national cemetery there, and they do a pretty big um, ceremony for Memorial Day services. And every year this year, it's a pretty big reminder of like the cost of freedom. Like what is the cost of freedom, and the ultimate cost of like freedom for all of us is we take a second and reflect on that in Memorial Day. And I think it's important that we take a second to share our gratitudes and of those who paid the ultimate price. And yet every single day when we are looking at creating ultimately a life of freedom, there's also a cost attached. And what is that cost? And, as I'm sitting here just thinking about, okay, what is the cost of freedom? And the cost of freedom, if I break it, like, so it was like, okay, well, so is it the cost of freedom is, okay, like comfort, and I have to learn like new things, or the cost of it is it discipline? Is it like having to say no? Is it like having to get up at a certain time and get up earlier, or do things I'm not used to? And I think what I discovered as I kind of kept digging deep, and so when I'm working on anything when it comes to like mindset. I follow an exercise that I was taught a while back about going 7 levels. And I have to continually ask myself, okay, fair. There's my first surface level answer. Well, what's underneath that? And if I say, okay, so what's the cost of freedom when it comes to my real estate business? Like what is the cost of creating a life of freedom? And then I go and have my first answer. It's like that surface answer. And that surface answer is usually like, what's my most inconvenience or discomfort piece? And then I go, okay, well, what's below that? And then what costs, like, then what? And then what? And so I keep asking myself all the way. And I feel like ultimately, if we go deep enough, the cost of the life that you desire is the life that you have. The cost of freedom is releasing and letting go of who you think you are today, your current self. That's the cost. You have to be willing to allow the version of you today to essentially die in order to step into the version of you that gets to create that life of freedom. Because there's a version of you that doesn't need woken up. There's a version of you that doesn't need to be told to pick up the phone. There's a version of you that doesn't need to, whatever, whatever it is that's getting in the way or stopping you from doing those things that you said you would be doing, right? And when in one of the conversations that I have around identity, right, an identity shift, is I share the story that when Christy and I started dating in 2000 and it was 2005, yeah, 2005 going into 2006. We had been dating for maybe February to July. Well, what is that? February to July, like 5, 6 months. Um, and I was a smoker, and I had been smoking for like 13, 14 years up to that point. And she just flat out had a conversation with me. And I had attempted to quit smoking. And if anyone's been a smoker or currently like tobacco or vapes or whatever, um, I had attempted to quit no less than probably 7 to 10 times. And some of those times I had gone 3, 4 months and then eventually wanted to like slowly got back into it. And so she pulled me aside one day and she's like, listen, she goes, we really need to have a talk. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And she goes, like, here's the deal. I like you a lot. I really like you. And I want, and she goes, I just I don't like kissing you. You're a smoker. And it's really disgusting. And she goes, I can't. And so I really like you and I'd like to kiss you more. And you smoke and I can't. And I just remember sitting there going, huh? What? And it was July 26th of 2006 was the day that we had that conversation. How do I know? Because that was the last day I smoked a cigarette. Because there was something that shifted immediately, right? And it was so what was the cost? The cost was not having the life that I really dreamt about with the person that I wanted it with. And immediately what happened is I had to let that version of myself die. And I had failed in the past because I'd always attempted to quit smoking. And someone who's attempting to quit smoking is always thinking about smoking. See, I was an ex-smoker, or I was someone who was quitting smoking. And at the core of that entire phrase was smoker. What shifted on July 26th was instead of becoming an ex-smoker, I became a non-smoker. It was an identity shift because a non-smoker doesn't think about smoking. See, I don't think about heroin because I've never done heroin and I'm not and I don't do heroin, right? Like I don't think every day I don't think about beating heroin, right? Like so it was an identity shift for me at that moment. And so full circle, what is the ultimate cost of our freedom, living the life that we deserve and desire is letting go and allowing a version of ourself to die and become and have an identity shift around the version of ourselves that we deserve to be. And that is again, um, someone who doesn't miss, someone who shows up daily, doesn't need reminded, doesn't need to be constantly encouraged and motivated. Again, motivation is external, discipline is internal. The people that win don't feel like it. They've created a habit of doing consistently over and over. They show up a little bit every day, all the time. So love to hear your thoughts and takes on this conversation and the ultimate cost of freedom. What is the cost? And the challenge is the life that we are destined to live is balancing on what you're willing to pay. And we all of us can afford it if we choose, but it's a choice.
I thought it was interesting that she didn't tell you she didn't tell you to quit smoking or anything like that, but she told you she didn't like to kiss you because you smoke, because of the taste or whatever. I thought that was an interesting way to go about it.
Well, she also then created a very clear boundary saying, I can't date somebody who smokes.
Oh, okay.
She made it very clear that if I didn't quit, we could no longer continue to date. It
Oh,
wasn't because I didn't. Here's the thing. I was not okay living with a kissless relationship, right?
okay.
So I had to make a very, very clear decision whether I preferred a slow death, one stick at a time, or explore the path of living a life with this person that fired off like and checked off all the boxes for me. And what's interesting is that was an easy choice and a choice that I couldn't like I failed at making for years. Like the quitting smoking, like the cost or the payoff, if you will, wasn't high enough. There wasn't a good enough or big enough reason. So So
But
yeah.
you just made an interesting point. Like it was an easy choice because you knew what you would be losing.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we don't know what we're losing because we don't think about it, or
There it is.
we don't we don't think about it or have the desire for something else. It's like, oh, I just want to do better or more. Or no, you got to get real clear. Like you knew what you wanted and it was her. And it was
Yeah.
like, shoot, well, no, I'm done with this. Like, this is who I am now. If you're not really clear on what that is, you
Mhm.
can't make that choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it's also, right? Like we like the lure of just being okay is enough sometimes to keep us chained to
Hmm.
mediocrity, right? And because on the other side of it is this, right? Like so some like I think sometimes I've been shown or painted or even gassed up into thinking like someone would say like, do you realize like this is the life that you could have? And the gap between where I am and where that is was so great. There was a lack of belief,
Hmm.
and so, no matter how well somebody painted this other side, all of like the programming, the conditioning, well, here's how I grew up, here's my background, here's my family, here's my DNA. Like, I don't deserve, I can't do, I'm just, I'm from here. Like, all of the programming
Hmm.
that was designed to hold me still was keeping me from being able to buy into and believing in the life that I could have. So, yeah.
Have you ever gotten stuck in well, we have it better than when I was growing up?
Ooh,
And
the
so,
comparison trap.
yeah, like
Oh, yeah,
kind of
yeah,
the
yeah.
backwards, like, well, I'm at least better or further along, or my kids have it better than I did growing up, or I'm in a better spot than my parents were at this point. And so it's like, I should be happy with where I am, right? And like, but I'm not satisfied. That sounds bad. No, it's true. It just is. I'm, yeah, I want more.
I'm so glad you bring this up, right? It keeps bringing me back to one of my favorite quotes is that comparison is the thief of joy, right? Comparison is
Yeah.
the thief of joy. And it's also the enabler of mediocrity. If you're comparing yourself to people, there's always somebody that has it worse off. Fair, right? Which again should enable us and allow us to be grateful. And what I'm saying is I've never not been grateful for where I am. And yet I also know that if I'm destined for more, it's my obligation to achieve. Because for me, if I'm destined for more, and when I get there, I can help and bless others at a higher level, then it would be dishonoring
Mhm.
my creator
Yep.
by not stepping into who I'm supposed to be. Ed Milet talks about, he says, my greatest fear is when I die, I get to meet the version of me that was possible. And my greatest fear is me not being able to recognize that individual because we're so different. Because I lived a life of fear and comfort and regret versus stepping into the version of myself. And so when I die, he goes, my goal is to meet the version of myself that's possible and for us to be the same. And I'm like, whoa.
That's really good.
He says, there is no hell. The hell is meeting the version of you that's possible that you let die because you lived in comfort and fear. I was like, F that. I don't want to do that. That's terrifying. Jim Rohn talks about it. He says, the pain of discipline weighs ounces, and yet the chains of regret weigh tons. The pain of discipline is ounces. The chains of regret weigh tons. And then Zig Ziglar talks about, he says, if you think the cost of investing in yourself or the cost of growth is high, wait till you see the receipt for standing still. Ugh. Happy Memorial Day. Thoughts. This is the so like like when I'm trying to go to bed and I'm sitting there and like my tape is running, this is the shit. This is the stuff that I'm like, I'm haunted about what I could be and should be doing. Like every day, like when I wake up, I'm constantly asking myself, am I pushing? Am I growing? Am I giving at least 1% more today than I did yesterday? And I can't answer that every day, like honestly. And I can't say yes every day, right? My goal is to have more yes days than no days. And then if there's a no day, then my goal is to figure out what happened and what I was more committed to stay still or stay small versus growth. And then like attack that, right? It's a process, right? And yet those are the questions I'm asking myself daily.
Yeah, I think that's everything that everyone has said. It's been That's something that's definitely weighed on my heart. And an author I really like is John Bevere. He's like, popular pastor,
Uh-huh.
well-known author, things like that. And he has this one book called You Are Called. And he
Uh-huh.
talks, I think, about a conversation he had with a guy who was like $1 million business mogul, and he was at like $5 million in revenue for his business or value. And he was just asking John, like, why should I keep going? Like, my family's already good, I'm already set. Like, what motivation should I have to keep trying to grow my business? And essentially the point that he came to was that we are given these gifts not just for ourselves, it's for others. So, him being able to even grow his business to that extent and to go further just shows like the call that God has on his life for him to do that and to continue to use that talent so that he could then bless others. And then he ended up far surpassing his goal. I think his goal was like 10 million or something. And then he ended up having like a $500 million business and being able to bless so many people and things like that. So that's something that comes to my mind when I think about being complacent or settling. It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
could be comfortable here, but
Mhm.
there's probably so much farther that God wants me to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Ed Milet in his book The Power of One More has that quote, and you just reminded me of that quote. Um, it was the one quote that stopped me in the middle of like I was doing like a long run, getting ready for a marathon, and I like to listen to audiobooks, and I listen to the books, and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, but I just keep running, and his quote froze me, and I had to stop in the middle of my run to pull out my notepad and write it down. And the quote was this, and he says, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
Mhm.
God
Yeah.
doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And so if you don't feel like you deserve it or are worth it, perfect. That doesn't mean you're not called. And that your qualifications on the other side of your willingness to pay the toll. And
The
what is that?
willingness.
You need to be, are you willing to let go of who you think you are for who you're destined to become? That'll be a good Opus clip.
Yeah. It's a baby. Hmm. I think it all comes down to that willingness. That are you willing?
Everything comes down to willingness. See, even when I think about when I'm working with when I'm working with people that I hire or bring into my world, they may not be super talented. However, if they've got a drive and a willingness to get messy and if their disposition is toward action versus giving me every reason why something doesn't work or things are different now or maybe that's what it was like when you started but it's not like that. I'm like, if someone's like, okay, what do I do next? And then what's next? And what's next? And then they come back with a whole bunch of mistakes, or they come back with like, all right, I did everything you said, and here's all the results. And we go, and I'm like, ooh, that individual, those are the individuals that I want in my world. The collectors of the results, the open-minded action taker. That's someone paying, that's someone paying the toll. And through one action at a time, letting go of a life that they used to know into the one that is destined for them. Love that part. I love seeing it. You can see it from a mile away. And then again, one of my other coaches shared with me this. They said, if you want to continue to fight for the life that you have, you get to keep it. I can never win you. I can never win that battle with you. If you want to fight for your limitations, if you want to fight for your excuses, if you want to fight for all the reasons why you can't, you're right. You win. You win. You win. I don't have a tool. I don't have a ninja script. I don't have a motivational magic wand for you. If you want to fight for all the reasons why you can't, you will win every time. I wish you the best. However, on the flip, if you want to fight and scrap and plug in and just crawl, whatever it takes, right? Just to move forward a little bit every day, then we will win. We will win. Promise. Any other thoughts?
I just find it interesting when you're trying so hard to change things and working on things, and you have people like in your life, and like sometimes these people are extremely close to you in your life, and it's like they just want to keep on yanking you. I mean, and it's like there's people that do really want to support you and encourage you, but so many other people, or it's like I don't even know if they sometimes even realize that they're doing it. I don't, not necessarily that it's like a comparison thing, or they see you, trying to move ahead, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't let them. It's sometimes I don't know. I see it a lot with a certain family member of mine, and I don't know if it's like their own limiting beliefs about things and they're like, oh, I don't want you to get hurt. So I don't want you, like, I don't
Yeah,
want you to do
that's
these things.
1,000% this, right?
Mhm.
Every time you attempt something and succeed, it's simply highlighting the
Yeah.
fact that they were too afraid to try.
Mhm.
And so their attempt to protect you is only to validate their inaction.
Yeah.
And so the uh oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name, but we had a conversation over dinner one time and he was talking about the power of proximity versus access.
Mhm.
And there are some people in our life that will maintain access, right? We can't just cut certain people out of our
Yeah.
life. However, we can manage proximity.
Mhm.
We can keep people appropriately far away that may be holding us down, like the crabs in the bucket,
Mhm.
right? So just because someone has access doesn't mean they get proximity,
Yeah.
right? And so we have to be really vigilant and have clear boundaries of who our board of directors are. Who are the individuals that we allow to inspire us, to set an example for us, and to hold us accountable.
Yeah.
And so this conversation, right? Like this conversation around the price, the price that we're willing to pay. Sometimes that price is letting go of relationships that no longer serve
Mhm.
in that capacity. Right? We get to choose who we bring along with us on the journey, and who we start this with doesn't necessarily mean those are the people that we continue this with.
Yeah.
And if that scares you, because that always scared me, like, oh, these are my people, right? There's always people waiting for you that are supposed to fill that space for that next season,
Yeah.
that to bring
Mhm.
you up. Like
Yeah.
that was a big holdback for me for a long time. What, a solid year and a half, Matt, probably, from when we first started talking, where I was like, oh, these are my people. But man, when I finally let go of that and realized this is holding me back, and here's what's in front of me, good gracious sakes alive.
Yeah.
Like,
the people. There's always
Yeah.
new people in front.
There's an upgrade
Yeah.
ready for
Mhm.
you. There's an upgrade.
I'm not even really worried about it. It's the people that I can't change the proximity to too much, like because there's certain family members and things. And
Mhm.
it's like, I just have to, I mean, continue to keep on doing stuff despite them.
Yeah.
So that goes back to a Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
That goes back to
Them.
let them.
Let them.
Yeah, just let them. There's certain
That
people.
that literally has changed my life. I
And that
mean,
is on repeat for me. It's just you let them, right? And then again,
yeah,
just become unmessable with.
yeah.
There's the landmark forum and the advanced course talks about this concept of being unmessable with. And it goes
Mhm,
back to the idea of there are people that are going to be playing out and living their story. Let them.
mhm,
Their story isn't your story. Don't let their story become your story.
yeah.
It's your story. And what people do is about them, and what we
Mhm.
do is about us. So
Yeah.
I know we're right at time. I hope you guys get to have a little bit of quality time today to reflect and again, I'm about to take off to pay my respects to our country and our service individuals who paid the ultimate sacrifice. So, and then reflecting on, how am I honoring their sacrifice by showing up as big as I can in a country that allows me to, that gives me the freedom to.
Well, I thank you for being here today.
Hey, we'll always be here for you.
Thanks.
Later, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.